Okay, so what we're going to be working on today is creating our nighttime pumpkins. And this takes a few different steps. So what we're going to begin first today is we're going to start working on drawing our pumpkin. And then we're going to actually draw our leaves too on one of our large pieces of paper. So let's get started with that. The first thing that you're going to need is our large paper. And what I want you to do is make sure you put your teacher code on it. So K is the first one that you do. And then you put your teacher's first letter of their name. So if you're in Murray, it'd be KM. If you're in Paletti, it'd be KP. If you are in Newton, KN, or Davis, KD, and so forth. So after you put your teacher code, then I want you to write your name, because they're all going to look a little the same. So make sure you put your teacher code and your name. Once you're done with that, what I'd like you to do is flip over your paper. And now what we're going to do is we're going to draw our pumpkin. And there's a lot of different ways to draw pumpkins. But one of the ways that I like to draw to help myself with the size of the paper is I'm going to do a dot and another dot below it. So now I've got a nice gap to help myself. And you could either draw an oval connecting it, or you can draw an oval slowly, where you do one side, and then you connect it the other way. So once you do that, then you're going to keep adding on those belly lines of your pumpkin. And we have a lot of paper to use. So you could keep going back to that dot and you could do another curve. And then on the other side you do the same thing. And you keep going. Keep making your pumpkin. Whatever's easiest on you. Right now it looks like a beach ball. And sometimes I don't want to go back to the dot. I might make mine a little bit wider, so I won't go as high, but I'll come back down. And that just gives it a little bit more character. So we keep adding a little bit more. I've got a really nice, fat, big pumpkin. Oh yeah, I like that pumpkin. And the nice thing about pumpkins is they're all not the same. Once you draw your pumpkin, the next step is you're going to draw a stem. And after you draw your stem, now let's talk about leaves. So next week, what we'll do is we're going to cut out our drawings. So, and then we'll glue them on. Right here I cut out the pumpkin and I cut out my leaf shapes. And so it doesn't matter where you place them, but you can make a variety of different leaves. We did our other leaves before where we have, some of us did like a fatter W, and we did a dot. And from there we connected them, and it looks like an upside down heart. You could draw your lines and have your stem. So there's one type of leaf. Another type of leaf is you could do a U, very wide U. And the dot kind of helps me with how long I want it to be. And that's how it looks like a teardrop. And you could do a wavy line, you could do a straight line. So try to draw about 4 leaves and make them different sizes, some big, some small. Perfect. And once you are done with that in your black crayon, put your crayon away in the metal dish, and from there I would like you to go get a paint shirt. Okay, so what we're going to do next is we're going to start painting our pumpkin that we created, as well as painting our leaves. And what you'll notice is at your table, you're going to have a little palette to share with your classmates. And I have the yellow and red next to each other, and then I have a yellow and blue next to each other. So primary colors are the very first colors, and when you mix them, you create secondary colors. Yellow and red makes orange, yellow and blue makes green, and red and blue makes purple. Now you'll notice that my yellow up here and a little bit of my blue here are mixed a little bit, and that's okay. This was actually from a class before, so this is what I'm expecting at the end of class, to see that our palettes look nice and at least tidy, because we're not mixing on here, because we're using this for about 4 people. We're going to be mixing it on our paper, and that's usually what it's easier to mix on our paper for this. Some artists mix on the paper and some artists mix on a palette, but since all of us are using it, we're going to be mixing on our paper. All right, so our pumpkin can be different types of shades. So shades could be it's a lighter color, and it could work its way to a darker color, and it's really nice. We're used to a different type of paint, but right now we're going to be using something that's called a tempera paint. So we're going to use our small brushes to cover and get into these detailed areas, and you'll notice my water is filled halfway. It's important that we always fill our water halfway, so that way when we're walking we're not spilling, and then when we're stirring and cleaning our brushes we're not spilling onto other people's projects. When you grab a dirty paintbrush, for example, this one's clean, but what I want to show you is you want to push your brush on the bottom of the cup, and you're going to swirl your brush around on the bottom, and that's what gets it nice and clean. When you're done swirling, we don't tap, we wipe, just like you would with soup. You're going to wipe it off on the inside, not the outside, because then you'll have drips everywhere, but on the inside. So those are my rules with this type of paint. What you're going to see me do is I'm going to grab some yellow, and I don't need to grab water for this brush. I'm going to grab some yellow, and let's not get it coated all over our paintbrush. And I'm just going to paint it in my area, noticing I'm staying within my lines. And I grabbed a good bit, so this is nice and yellow. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to just ever so lightly, I'm going to take just a tiny bit of red, not a lot, and watch, I'm going to have my magic trick happen, where just that tiny bit of red going over the yellow makes it a nice dark orange, which is really neat, isn't it? So those two colors mixed, and I have a nice orange. If you don't like that and you want it a little lighter in some areas, you can go in and grab some more yellow. And you can even work in just a little bit of areas. You can go, I just want a tiny bit more yellow here. And leave some of the other orange there, which is neat, right? So I'm going to grab, I wish I could have my palette on here nicer. Let's do it this way. I'm going to grab a little bit more of my yellow, and I'm going to start painting it. I haven't rinsed my brush yet, because we're all working on this together. Okay, and I'm going to do a tiny, tiny bit of red. Take my red over, and there's another little bit of my orange mix. So you can keep working until you get your whole pumpkin filled. If you feel like it's dry, just grab more paint. I know we're used to grabbing more water with our tempura cakes, but with this paint, it's already wet for us. So you just grab more paint. And if just keep playing with mixing it on your paper. You could even swirl a little bit if you want to get some texture, which is fun. So have fun with your paint techniques and just get your entire pumpkin filled. And there you go. I have my pumpkin nice and colored in. Alright, so now what we're going to do is we're going to work on making green. So I'm going to rinse my brush really well, push down on the bottom, and it's going to take a little bit because this paint is not like the paint we're used to, so it takes a little bit to wipe off. And our palette should still look really nice where they're not very messy. But what we're going to be using now is the yellow that's next to the blue. So I'm going to take this particular yellow, and what I'm going to do now is paint it on top of my leaves. So here's some of my yellow. Grab a little bit more. You can work around and just do your leaves this way. Okay. Grab more yellow. Good. And then what you're going to do is play by taking a little bit of the blue, and you could paint all of it, you could paint a little bit of it, you can do some swirls or squiggles, and you can make the different shades of green, which is really cool. So you could have half a leaf be one color, and you could grab a little bit more blue and make the other side dark blue or dark greenish blue. So there's a lot of neat tricks. Just play with making your different shades of green. Okay, once you're done, what you'll do is you'll put your project on the dry rack and you'll work on some extra art at your table.